What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Rapflex Radio, the Elite Performance Podcast, where we believe an elite life is executed with purpose and love by design. And this is the last of the Five Fears series and the fear of the truth. And I want to thank one of my good friends, Danielle, for suggesting this because I think this is one that can be incorporated into the other four that I had talked about, but I think it needs addressed by itself. Because if you're an elite performer, the one thing that you must do is hold a mirror up to what is true, what is the reality. You being right is no longer what you're striving for. It's what is right. And 2020 has taught us that a lot of people want to be right. They're not seeking the truth of what actually reality is. And I'm not going to make this a political episode. We're going to talk in terms of performance and how this impacts your life. But I will get very real today because that is what you need and that is what I need if we want to achieve what we said we want to. So let's talk about what is the truth. Truth is the unequivocal mirror of reality. I came up with that all on my own. It's really understanding the truth is a lot of self-awareness. It's admitting that you're wrong, that you could be wrong, and taking in other perspectives, opinions, and filtering those out to come to what is the truth. And that is context dependent. And some argue that we make our own reality. There is some truth to that. The CIA came out in 2018 telling us that, yeah, the law of attraction is real. The life we live may just very well be a hologram. So that's fun. But that aside, certain temporary or permanent realities that we don't want to face based on what needs to happen next from us is what's going to hold us back. And this plays a little into the fear of success. It's what am I actually going to have to do or think or take the leap to get to the next level? And do I really want to do that? Is it true, and do I really want to do that? And continue with me because I'm going to give you an action plan on how to do that. And actually what you need to address first in your life. That will be the takeaways of today. It's really what I see problems with in my own life and in other people's when it comes to the fear of the truth is our current skill ability, the reality of nature, and this existential crisis that I found out some of us deal with, but some of us don't. And I am in the gives a lot of thought and attention to it, which has been mostly bad this year. It's good to think about in small quantities, but not when it keeps you up at night. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But within our current skill ability, we aren't as good as we think we are. We aren't as bad either. And I think that level of neutrality kind of makes us feel weird. Because if we can say, oh, we're bad at this, then we just accept it. If we think we're great at something, we can accept that too. But if we think we're just okay, and especially if you're trying to go from like great to elite within a skill set, it is going to take a lot of time, and you're not going to see the vast amounts of improvement that you are used to seeing. Great example is with weight training. When you first start, and I used this example last episode, body recomposition, you simultaneously lose fat and gain muscle. Well, if you do, either bodybuilding style training, powerlifting style training, you'll get to a point where you reach sort of this good status, and to go from great to elite, adding 5 pounds, 10 pounds is a massive achievement. And are you willing to put in even more work to go from good to great to elite than you already have to get from sort of starter or average to good? Within some areas of your life, that answer is hell yes. Within some of them, it's just not. And we have to accept that we're just going to be good to above average at some things if we really want to leave a legacy and we want to be great or elite at something. Because it's very, very hard to be elite at 3 things, let alone all the things. Like, I'm a polymath, so it's kind of hard to stomach that truth. If you're anything like me, you enjoy a bunch of things, and you want to be good at them. Just why you do them. You enjoy it, and you kind of have a natural talent and skill set towards it, whether that is sports or cooking or video games or understanding narrative when you're watching a movie. Eventually you'll run into people much better than you. It's just what it is. And having to decide, like, what do I want to put my focus, attention, and effort on to go from good to great to elite, that's tough. It really is. And then the reality of nature. I tend not to swear on this podcast because I want it to be for high school athletes if they're interested in understanding this. But I want them to. I want you, if you're that person or if you're a parent, nature doesn't give 2 fucks about you. It just doesn't. And COVID happening was kind of an example of it happened. It unfortunately has taken a lot of people away that probably some would still be here, given what came out in the CDC of 94% had pre-existing conditions. Again, not a political episode, but nature doesn't give a shit about you. If you see a dead deer on the side of the road, life wasn't fair to that deer, but reality happened. It sucks, but it's truth. Lastly, this existential crisis, which kind of goes along with the reality of nature, and not everything has a meaning or purpose behind it. And sometimes we're just dicked over by people, by circumstances, by events, by genetics, by anything that gets in our way. Sometimes we're just dicked over, and there was no malice or reason behind it. It just happened. An example is relationships. It just didn't work out. And if you're in your early 20s, late 20s, you're always trying to think, oh, what could I have done different? How could I have treated that person better or differently? When in the end, it really didn't matter what you would have done differently. It wouldn't have worked out anyway. And that's something that is really hard to stomach, but it's the truth. In hearing that, I hope that helps you and doesn't have you unsubscribe to this podcast or this YouTube channel. Really, that is where I see a lot of people ignoring the truth of life. So the goal of this episode of overcoming the fear of the truth is to start to work with reality, like hold its hand, so you can work with each other instead of against each other, instead of against it. Learn about the law of attraction, read books, and understand the byproduct of intentionality, and surround yourself with supportive people doing much better than you. Learn where the top is so that you can reverse engineer a plan. And that can be incredibly scary to, so, okay, like, I want to be will be a top coach in the industry. Who's the top coach in the industry? Let's Brendan Bouchard. Let me follow him. Holy shit. Like, it took him how long? And he does how many things? Am I willing to do that? You can look at other examples. But Brendan, for me, is kind of my number one influence on what I want to be. And he did a lot for a long time, very consistently, to get to where he was. And I have done some, if not most of those things, just not as consistent to my standard. But let's go back to the byproduct of intentionality for a second. No matter what religion you are, if you have a spiritual practice, think about what prayer or that silence really is. It's taking a step back, and it's basically you telling the world what you want, or giving thanks for what you do have in the world, or being forgiven for the things you've done in your past. And now you're focused on something else other than the unnecessary amount of information that we are given on a day-to-day basis, whether that is on our phones or on TV or just ambient sounds. And prayer really is being intentional with your thoughts, with your life. And when you become overwhelmed, it's very hard to remember either A, to do it if it's not a habit, or B, what the true intention behind that is. And since we're talking about the truth, we all have different sort of perceptions about spirituality and religion and the afterlife. We sort of have our own truths to what that looks like, and that's been influence of how we were raised and our own life sort of evolution and what we've read and what we have sort of internalized. And that's why having a spiritual practice is so important. And that's something I left off of the action plan, because the action plan is things for you to accept. That's something I wanted to sort of get to, is that's why spirituality is so important. It's having this sort of intentionality built into why does this all matter? And I think for me, again, this is subjective, but that helps me work hand in hand with reality a little more than if I didn't have that. And that's something, especially this winter, being stuck in Ohio again, that's something I'm absolutely going to make a priority, especially on Sundays, is having more of that intentionality surrounding my spirituality. You can believe whatever you want, but having that in your life is going to help you with the fear of the truth, because you can now go to something that talks about sort of everything that you're worried about. And I dug into a little of my experience there. But from a skill set standpoint, like I've gotten good at a fair amount of things, whether that is writing, copywriting, speaking, designing in a way, user interface within sort of both the media side and the performance side. And I want to be great at a lot of things. And I know it's going to take time. Having that patience this year, like I talked about last week, has been really difficult. And it probably has been difficult for you too. But things are better now. And I think that has a lot to do with sort of stress management and what I was talking about with the byproduct of intentionality. It's just going back to why am I here? Why am I doing this? And having the trust in the law of nature that I'm going to be here as long as it takes to achieve my dreams. So, 5 truths, and that is a terrible segue, but forgive me. So, 5 truths that, if accepted, will push you forward. Number 1, your plans will take longer than you think. I have a 5 to 10 year business plan. I'll get more into that in subsequent episodes. And things are going exactly how I thought they would within the first year, because I'm in the first year of these things. RapFlex was established in 2018. I really don't count that year. I did not do much or make that much. It was sort of an LLC created to kind of facilitate some of the freelance work I was doing, and absolutely, like, what I was making, the tax benefits was ridiculous. I paid more, and that it just needed to be done. So really, this was the first year. Things are going according to plan, but having the patience and being consistent is something I struggled with this year. And I know, given that, things are going to take longer than I think. Now I have sort of the level 2 of where I want to be. Jacksonville with Braxton, my corgi, and, doing the same thing I'm doing now, just living in a different place with a dog. That's kind of level 2, and that sounds like not much, but it will be for me, because I can get out of what it's about to be cold Ohio, and I've learned that seasonal affective disorder is big for me, even with vitamin D supplementation. So I'm looking forward to that, but it's like level 3, level 4. That's where I know will take longer than I anticipate, but I'm willing to put in the consistent work necessary. 2, very few people deserve your undivided attention, but give those who do that intention without the want or need of reciprocation. And Cody McBroom, who's been on this podcast, I think does a great job of this. He gives without expectation of wanting to receive anything in return, although he does, I see, get a lot in return, just based on the fact that he's such a giver. And there are a ton of people like this, but he's a good example. And it's understanding who does warrant your attention and really giving it to them without this need for reciprocation. 3, you need to put in the hours when no one is watching to commend the level of admiration you're seeking. No one gives a shit if you're good. Like, we want great, we want elite, we want something to say, wow, that was really good. And that is what I've been doing, kind of the past few months. Although I have taken some time to rest, I have not been, again, on this podcast as consistent as I want to, but don't ever think like I'm not doing anything. Like, I've gained some clients who are doing really, really good work and some back-end setup, and like understanding myself a little more. And like, it's not fun to put in the hours necessary, but it's necessary to get that level of either admiration or money that we desire. It's just necessary. It's the truth. And please come to me with an example of someone who didn't, and I will change my mind about it, but I'll probably be waiting for a long time. So 4th, you will need help from other people, and you will not be in the room when those decisions are made. Going back to Meadowbrook, when I had my interview, got off, and so they subsequently had a conversation about my future without me virtually present. And you're going to have that within your life of taking the next step. Like, whether that is a coach saying, okay, this individual is going to be the team captain, or a scout saying, wow, this kid's really good, or getting that second contract. The GM's going to have a conversation with either the owner, the head coach. I'm giving examples here. From an online coach standpoint, if someone needs to go talk to their husband or wife, they're going to have a conversation about you and your program without you there, unless you're able to head that off, which there are ways. Fun fact. But I think those are really good examples of times of where you're not going to be in the room, that your future is going to be dependent on that, and you have to accept that as truth. And fifth, if you're not happy now, you won't be happy with more money or more notoriety. There are too many millionaires and billionaires who have committed suicide to say that money is the root of all happiness. It is not the root of all evil. It's reality. It's how we perceive to look at it. Money is neutral. Notoriety can be good or bad, depending on how you intend to use it. But again, if you're not happy now, you won't be happy with more money or more notoriety. And that's just the truth. So to wrap up, accepting what's true will allow you to better move forward and achieve the life you want. A lot of the truth sucks. And that's why strength and mental conditioning, when I talk about like strength, it's physical conditioning, strength conditioning, mental conditioning, is so important to performers, because we can rely on sort of that discipline and that grit that we show within those time frames to every other part of our lives. So I hope you enjoyed this series. I enjoyed creating the content and kind of digging into sort of what my fears were. I really hope this helped you. And I'm excited to sort of dive into things that will push you forward. And not that this didn't, but again, let me know if you enjoyed this series. I intend to do sort of more series in the future, but let me know if this was a complete flop or if you really enjoyed it. And I always appreciate a 5-star rating and review. Please share it with your friends who may be ignoring this truth. And again, Mind Design Complete is for the individuals who want to face the truth, want to face the reality of their life, and want to know like what they need to do from daily, weekly, monthly standpoint, from a personal development standpoint, from a professional development standpoint. What do they need to do to achieve the life that they want? And Mind Design Complete was designed specifically for this person to unearth some of this lack of self-awareness, creating a vision for your life, installing the habits and routines necessary, and then being at peak performance consistently, not perfection, but consistently, to get you to where you want to go as quickly as possible. And that's what I designed Mind Design Complete to be. And if that sounds like you, I have the application in the show notes along with some other free stuff if you're not ready currently, but hop on a free call with me. It is an hour. I actually coach you. It's not just a sales call, and we figure out if we're a good fit, and no pressure whatsoever on these. So again, if that is you or someone you know, please share that with them. And until next week, guys, thank you and have a great week.